Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing part 4 of the Keys of Marinus, which is called The Snows of Terror. What a name! I love when Doctor Who used to have these old school awesome names. Planet of Evil, Seeds of Doom, Seeds of Death. I miss that. So I am really enjoying this story overall. And I liked this episode. It does feel a little more geared toward a younger audience because some obvious things happen. Immediately, I didn't trust the bear trapper guy. I mean, I wasn't sure, but I was suspicious, highly suspicious. I almost thought he was a cannibal for a second when he was talking about fattening her up, and when he locked the door, when he's like, "Oh, nothing can get in or out." I'm like, "Look, dude, you're not doing a very good job of keeping her at ease. She's going to be a little alerted something's up. You're making too many little snide comments. You're not as clever as you think you are." We have about a third of the episode without at least, closer to half, I think, of the episode without Susan. That's great. I love when there's not a lot of Susan, even though she's not as irksome in this one, and actually does a cool thing when she crosses that little made bridge they have to make. When she goes across it, that's pretty cool. I like the ice setting of this. Again, this episode has a very different feel from the previous episodes. Every episode in this story has had its own unique feel and tone to it. It really does feel like a bunch of little mini episodes across one serial. And again, I hear it compared to The Key to Time a lot, and it does feel like that, whereas The Key to Time is a bunch of separate stories with a seasonal arc. This feels kind of like that, a bunch of separate stories with like a seasonal arc linking them. And you don't see that in classic Doctor Who a lot, where you have a story that instead of feeling like parts of a whole, they each feel like their own kind of individual thing with just the keys linking them. And I am enjoying that. Again, Hartnell is not in this story. The First Doctor's not in this story, but much like I mentioned in my Part 3 review, it makes sense why he's not here. I guess he had a really nice holiday, 2 weeks in a row. It makes sense because they split up. The Doctor went to look for the last key ahead of them while they were looking for these other keys. So that's actually a really good way to, if he needed to take holiday, for him to take holiday without it interrupting the flow of the story. And Ian and Barbara have done a really good job carrying the story so far. They did a really good job in episode 3. They do a really good job here. Again, even Susan is pretty good here. The guest cast are all right. They don't get to do a whole lot. The guy and the girl who are the guest cast, they don't do a whole lot. The Trapper never feels intimidating. I like that. He kind of starts off looking intimidating because he kind of has that big, Hagrid look to him. I once broke a wolf with my bare hands the other day. But then, ultimately he turns out to be quite the coward, actually. He has trouble subduing even Barbara by herself, and once he's outnumbered, he just kind of does whatever he's told. At his heart, he really does feel like a coward that talks big. The scene when they're all crossing the bridge, and Ian, when he sees Susan and the other girl, he runs across the bridge and leaves the Trapper on the other side alone. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, "Ian, no, you idiot, no, don't leave him over there. He's going to throw off the bridge." And that's exactly what happens. I'm like, I could spot that a mile away. It is kind of one of those things I think most people, again, it feels a little more geared toward children this particular episode, because that does seem like the likely thing that will happen. So when it happened, I'm like, Ian. And even he's like, "That's my fault." I'm like, "Yes, it is. Shame on you. You're better than that." But it was clever. Susan, again, got to be helpful. I like that, by crawling across their little makeshift bridge so she can set the actual bridge back up, which she seemed to have done pretty quickly. So go Susan. I don't get to be on Team Susan very often, but yes. I like when they find the key frozen in the block of ice with the guards around it. I'd always wondered how the guards, who in their right mind would stay there until they freeze to death. I didn't realize they would reanimate. I just figured they'd fall over dead. But I suspected something when it showed, I think it was Susan walking towards one like he was going to touch his sword right then. I thought, "Oh, he's about to move. And then he turns and looks at her. I'm like, "Yup. I don't think that's how being frozen works, but cool. It's Doctor Who. Willing suspension of disbelief engaged." So when they start, the warriors start coming to life with them, I'm right on board with it. I'm cool with it. One thing I have to say about this episode is I love the sets. The sets look very impressive. I think this is one of those situations where being in black and white probably helps, but the sets look impressive. When they're outside in the snow, that looks good. The cabin, the trapper's cabin, looks good. The interior of the mountain, when the walls are ice, look phenomenal. They even point that out. This isn't this is solid ice right here. This is a mountain made of ice. That looks really impressive. I mean, the whole story, all 4 parts so far have had some pretty good set designs. I've really enjoyed the set designs, but this one especially, I really liked the set work. It looked really, really impressive. I definitely had to compliment that. So yeah, I'm enjoying this story a lot. All of the actors involved are doing a pretty good job. The trapper, I wish he'd met his end differently. Like, I saw how he got stabbed through the door and died. It's not how I wanted him to die. What I wanted was for them to get into a fight and then shove him out of his cabin and lock him out before he could run back in, and then they all teleport away. And so with his cabin lock, he can't get back in, and then he turns around and there's the wolves. You could have like some, just regular footage of wolves snarling and closing in, and him, no, I think that would have been the ironic death for him to be trapped outside, not be able to get in, and the wolves all get him. That's what I wanted. That would have been great. But probably, again, not good for a children's episode, so the bit with the sword probably worked better. So that was a little disappointing, but it was still a really good episode. What's impressing me is we have a story where at least a third of it does not have the first Doctor in it, and it's still working. His reason for being there is sound. It doesn't feel clunky and like it does in, say, like the 10th Doctor, or there was another one too, Dalek Invasion of Earth, when it just feels clunky when he's not there. Him not being there makes sense, and the other actors hold their own well enough to where it's not even a problem. Ian and Barbara are just fantastic in this. William and Jacqueline are doing an amazing job. I'm very much enjoying this story, and I can see why it tends to have the really good reputation that it does. It just goes to show that Season 1 can shine in Doctor Who. I think I prefer Season 2 over Season 1 right now, but this is definitely something that, where Season 1 can be like, we're pretty awesome too. I'm really enjoying this story. So, The Snows of Terror was an awesome name. What do you think of it? Have you seen it? Comment down below and let me know what you think of Part 4 of The Keys of Marinus. Other things to do while I have you here, go ahead and click that like button and that subscribe button if you haven't yet, especially if you watch the channel regularly. That helps me out, and it's free. I'm really looking forward to hitting 800 subscribers. I'm really looking forward to eventually hitting 1,000 subscribers. There's so many things I want to do with the channel I can't do until I do that, so I'm looking forward to that. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me that way. There is a link to that down in the description below. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me, Doctor Who related or otherwise. I watch all sorts of sci-fi goodness. And anime. I like anime as well. I also have a link to my Amazon wish list down in the description as well, and I update that regularly if you would like to check that out. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.